When I win the American, without even compete, because they were afraid to come to the stage, they give me all the trophies because they don't want to compete.
What kind of giant must it take to make Arnold Schwarzenegger feel small? The answer is Sergio Oliva, the black Cuban refugee who dominated the Mr. Olympia stage from 1967 to 1969. Oliva remains one of bodybuilding's most revered figures, known as the sport's first mass monster. His moniker, The Myth, was well earned, with Oliva boasting 22-inch arms, 30-inch thighs, and a remarkably slim 28-inch waist. Standing 5'10" and competing at a weight between 225 and 245 pounds, Oliva even invented a unique pose only he could pull off, the victory pose, which involves extending the arms straight overhead with fists goosenecked, a shot that makes others look small by comparison. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, whose own lats are legendary, was astounded by Oliva's lat spread. In his Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, Arnold recalled how Sergio would walk around backstage wearing a long butcher's coat to conceal his physique. He had his shoulders pulled in, looking very narrow. I remember thinking that his back didn't look very big, but then he lowered the boom. As he walked out into the light on his way to the stage, he said, "Take a look at this," and he flared his lats. The effect was like a giant vampire bat swooping in for the kill. Sergio's journey into bodybuilding began unexpectedly. Initially worried about the diet required to become a professional weightlifter, he was reassured to just show up at the Roger Gonzalez gym in Guanabacoa. Without a word, Oliva was directed to a lifting platform, handed an Olympic bar loaded with 220 pounds, and effortlessly lifted it overhead. This marked the start of his training in Cuba as an Olympic-style weightlifter, a path that showcased his freakish natural strength and athletic ability, earning him a spot on the national team. In 1962, Oliva defected to the United States, landing in Chicago. There, he formed a pivotal friendship with fellow lifter and bodybuilder Bob Guida, who would go on to win the 1966 Mr. America contest. Guida, who worked for the YMCA and ran a gym, became Oliva's mentor. "He taught me weightlifting, and I taught him bodybuilding," Guida said. Oliva's background in Olympic lifting gave him a significant edge in bodybuilding competitions that included judged elements of lifting. Guida noted that this background contributed to Oliva's formidable spinal erectors, thanks to years of heavy cleans and snatches. Oliva's debut in bodybuilding quickly set him apart. His first major contest was the 1964 AAU Mr. America, where he began his meteoric rise. By 1967, Oliva had won the Mr. Olympia, establishing himself as the best bodybuilder in the world. His physique was unprecedented, light years ahead of the competition, and he was regarded as the most genetically gifted bodybuilder of his time. Even decades later, with the emergence of champions like Lee Haney in the 1980s and Ronnie Coleman in the 1990s, Oliva's legacy as a physical marvel remains unchallenged. Oliva's rivalry with Arnold Schwarzenegger is legendary. In 1972, under the high-intensity training HIIT of Arthur Jones, Oliva challenged Schwarzenegger for the Mr. Olympia title in Essen, Germany. Despite being in the best shape of his life and weighing a super-ripped 250 pounds, Oliva controversially lost to Schwarzenegger. Arnold later admitted in his autobiography that competing next to Oliva was daunting. Compared with all of the other bodybuilders I've ever faced, Sergio really was in a class by himself. It was so hard to look impressive next to him with those incredible thighs, that impossibly tiny waist, those incredible triceps. Oliva's career was marked by his conflicts with the IFBB, particularly Joe Weider. After being disqualified from the 1973 IFBB Mr. International contest, which he had won, Oliva severed ties with the Weider-controlled IFBB. He continued competing in other bodybuilding federations, winning titles such as the WBBG Mr. Galaxy in 1972 and 1973, the WBBG Mr. Olympus in 1975, 1976 and 1978, and the WABA Professional World Championships in 1977 and 1980. His last professional bodybuilding competition was the 1985. Beginning with his first major physique contest in 1964, the AAU Mr. America, Sergio rose meteorically to become, with his 1967 Mr. Olympia win, the best bodybuilder in the world. And once he had achieved this, the consensus within bodybuilding was that he was built like nothing seen up until that point, that he was light years ahead of the competition. Today, 4 decades later, he is still considered the most genetically gifted bodybuilder to have graced the bodybuilding stage, even considering the emergence of magnificent champions like Lee Haney in the 1980s and Ronnie Coleman in the 90s. Without every trick and substance in the book available to him, unlike the competitors of today, Sergio was able to craft his spectacular physique with natural brute strength forged through years of Olympic-style weightlifting and a rare aptitude for building muscle in all the right places. It was as if God himself decided to bestow the genes necessary to create perfect physical specimen to see if the look would catch on. Sergio's last professional bodybuilding competition was the IFBB Mr. Olympia in 1985, where again Sergio placed 8th and Lee Haney took home his 2nd consecutive title. The Myth had planned on a 1986 Olympia appearance. However, a domestic argument with his wife turned tragic, and 45-year-old Sergio was shot 5 times. Fatally wounded, Sergio still managed to drive himself to the Chicago hospital where he recovered. Sergio worked hard through the entirety of his bodybuilding career, spending long days working in a foundry and following them with brutal 3 to 4 hour gym sessions. His work ethic was tireless. So, what do you think of this great bodybuilder? Let us know in the comment section. Please like, subscribe and share to Muscle. This is for the day. See you in the next video. Till the time, stay motivated and stay fit.